record, if you don't mind.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
Cool. So hey Jeff, I figured it'd be just good to get to know your story because you DM'd me out of the blue. Okay, we've DM'd twice. Like the first time was just like general, like saying hi, and the second time you DM'd with like your story about getting internship at Tesla, and I was like, holy shit. Yeah, like I get people shouting out results now and then, but obviously Tesla is like a well-known name. And I just like recording these stories and just like sharing it with other people, and also learning more and maybe offering some help or advice or whatever else I can do for you.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. If I can sponge up anything from you, like, please.
Yeah. So what's your story, man?
Yeah. So, where do you want to where do you want to start? There's the question could be taken in so many ways. In programming in general, or just general, like how I was kind of like raised up and stuff.
Just like the 1 minute intro of like where you're from, like you're a student now, and then how you got into coding and all that good stuff.
Yeah. So yeah, my name is Jeff. I study mathematics at the University of Waterloo in Canada. And I have been programming since I was, I think, 15 or 16 years old. So I'm 21 now. So around 5 years. I started in high school. And in high school, I started programming. It was like I think my grade 10 business class with HTML and CSS. And I was always into video games as a kid, and I wanted to learn more how to code. So when I had that very basic intro, it was very interesting to me. So I started getting more into like front end web development, and I went to like hackathons, worked on mainly hackathons. Was like a good. That's where I got my start, and then I got more interested in, I guess, more of the computer sciencey things as I entered university and stuff. So now that's kind of where I'm at. I was able to, in the first year, I thought I wanted to go the data science machine learning route. So I had one internship at IBM doing a data internship. But I was like kind of this data analytics, playing with models is not.
Was that Watson?
Yeah, it was Watson. And I was like, oh, this is not the most fun. So then last year, I did an 8-month internship at a startup. And yeah, now this upcoming winter, I'll be interning for Tesla.
Dude, that's a amazing journey so far. And I think definitely it speaks to a lot of self-motivation, right? Like I don't think the average student is like you, doing so much outside of school. But also I suspect that there's something in Waterloo. Like obviously, I think it's it is the top tech university in Canada. At least like everyone from like everyone who's good and comes out of Canada like probably went through Waterloo. I think Vitalik Buterin is also from there as well. So just like a lot of like, is there something about the program that just forces you to like do all these like 8-month internships? That's like super long.
Yeah. So well, first, UFT and UBC are also good universities as well, that are quite competitive. With Waterloo, what a lot of people love about Waterloo is the co-op program. So what happens is Waterloo students need at least 5, and they can do 6 as well, 4-month internships. So they graduate with 24 months of experience. So 2 years of experience. And there's no summer breaks. So it's a 5-year program. And yeah, that's why I guess the Waterloo students, like they have access to so many, they have access to many internships throughout their university career. And that's kind of, I guess, why a lot of people, I guess, come out of Waterloo successfully. And it's also just the environment. It's pretty competitive, sometimes a little bit toxic, and everyone just kind of competes against each other. And the funny thing is I'm actually not even in the co-op program. something really weird happened with my university application, but I still came to Waterloo just because I wanted to be around the people that came to Waterloo. So it was more of a for me to go to Waterloo was more of a school decision rather than a program. So yeah.
Do you feel like if you like got the maximum benefit out of, knowing people, like having been through some part of the program, like do you have to finish, like I wonder if kids like, college kids like I could just drop out like everyone who like is famous, like
Yeah. Oh my goodness. So for one, the only reason why I'm still going to finish my degree is because I want to work in the States and you need a 4-year bachelor's for the
that's
visa.
legit. That's legit.
But yeah, but a lot of people, some people really do realize that the upper years of Waterloo aren't they aren't worth it anymore because they do the entrepreneurial route or they do the startup thing. And yeah, a lot of some not I'm not gonna say a lot of people, but there are like some people that are like, yeah, like I've heard of some stories that people are dropping out and stuff. For me personally, I feel like there's many times I wanted to do it, but I feel like I missed that. I kind of have this mental model. It's like a snapshot, and I kind of missed that snapshot. I guess that's not. I didn't start programming early enough in order to. There's still like benefit of me going to university, so that's why I'm still in it. Whereas if some person like started coding, maybe in middle school, then I could see a lot more reason to do that, like Mark Zuckerberg or like Bill Gates or something.
I don't think it's like a matter of years of experience. It's more just like, is there anything in the upper classes that like you couldn't have access to, or whatever. But for sure, the 4-year degree thing is actually important for visas. And I did like a random master's in finance during my previous career, which you know about. And yeah, I've used that every single time for a visa, even though I don't really work in finance anymore. So yeah, it's a thing for interfacing with like the traditional world, which like very much is paper qualifications. And then I think within our little bubble, like we're realizing that paper doesn't really mean that much. Cool. So how did you hear about me? How did this come about?
Uh, Being the type A person I am, I was listening to, I think, a podcast, and I'm not sure if it was Free Co Camps or I think it was Free Co Camps with I believe his name
Quincy.
is Quincy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, I mean,
And I was just listening.
Quincy is like the man. Like, he
Yeah.
runs a media empire.
Yeah, it's crazy. I've personally never went through Free Code Camp
Mm.
or any of those like Odin projects, but I was very like I was just listening to the podcast and stuff, and then I think it was the you guys talked about Learn in Public, right?
Yep.
And it's like a lot of stuff, like a huge potluck, I believe. And I was just like, wow, like it makes a lot of sense. I don't remember exactly what you talked about, but I remember how you made me feel, and I was like, yeah, Learning in Public makes a lot of sense because I already had a basic connection with Learning in Public, and the idea that's like with tech you should put your GitHub out, maybe a portfolio, but not to the extent where you're actually I guess there's a spectrum of how much energy you put into the Learning in Public pieces. Like you could do anything from throwing up like a tweet to like actually a full blown out course that you're learning as well. But it just made a lot of sense that like I was doing all this learning in private, and it's like now with the web, like having a website, it's like having um, I don't know, but it's like it made a lot of sense to put my stuff out in public. So I was like, wow, like I should probably start doing this.
It's such a simple principle, right? Just 3 words, but then like you could you could take it a million different ways, and people have, and so yeah, it's one of those things where like I get a little bit worried that like people just think that I'm only about one thing, but then at the same time like it benefits people, and it's profound, and it really benefits me. So I'm just gonna keep doing it. And also like not that many people listen to it, they're like yeah sounds good, and then they don't follow through on it. So it's one of those things where like I don't know if you've heard of like how Jeff Bezos characterizes Amazon. A lot of times in technology, I'm just going to do the spiel. You probably heard this before, but like, so a lot of times in technology, people are like asking like, about the future, like, what do you think will change in the next 5 to 10 years? and he's much more interested in what will not change. And I think that's a fundamental insight where like everyone's interested in things that change, but if you invest in things that don't change, like those are the things you cannot possibly overinvest in. Like the only difference is like whether you're early or not. Like if you invested in something that's inevitably going to happen and you're just too early, just wait. And like that's how you play a super long-term game. And at the end of the day, like that's what we're really, that's the only thing that we should play. And so I kind of view learning public as one of those things where I cannot overinvest in it because people don't do it enough as a default action. I think partially because lack of confidence, like there's so many reasons, lack of confidence, but then also like lack of role models. And also I think the traditional education system, their parents, their peer group doesn't do it. And so it's not a norm. And so it's just like a weird thing. And you're like, why would I do that? But really, I think the things have changed. Like the why now of this idea is really that we're sort of, especially for developers, and I think that's why this resonates more with developers than with others. But I see it popping up in finance and in science as well, but like basic science. But with developers, like the material changes so fast, and languages and frameworks changes so fast that you can make a name for yourself relatively quickly. You can reach, and people are relatively online, so you can reach a lot of people, and the social network can contribute material value just to your learning much more than if you learned in private. And so I think all those things just like kind of come together, and it's just so profound. I could go on, like exactly like you said, like people won't remember the content of the logic of like this, therefore this works, but they remember that this works, and they're like, yeah, they like see patterns of it, and I think putting a name to the pattern might help.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Wait, so when you were talking about the overinvesting thing, are you saying that you can't overinvest it right now because it's not as standard, or are like investing a lot of time in it right now?
So this is specifically with regards to me sharing this message. Like, why don't I just write it once and then never talk about it again? Do you know what I mean? Like, anytime people ask, I can just point people to like the same blog post. Instead, I choose to do a lot of different talks, like calls like this one, which is recorded, and I intend to share it. Like I'll do podcasts. I'll just like I do more stuff because I think I'm continuing to invest in it because I think that I cannot overshoot. Like there's no point at which like I've done too much of this. And mainly because like it takes that long to reach people and to change behavior. So yeah, just keep doing it.
Yeah,
And
no, that
so
makes a lot of
that's
sense.
that's from a me angle, and then from a listener angle, from like a people who are just picking this up angle. The reason that you cannot overinvest in it is because I think by default you are 100% private, and that's normal and that's fine. It's just that I think if the ask is really like, it's not to go from 0 to 100% public. It's like literally 0 to like 5% public, and like most people don't even overshoot that, so it's fine.
Yeah, and what I also realized is that so I don't know if you had a chance to see what I did, but essentially I had like there's been many false starts or sprints with like algorithm and data structure prep
Yeah.
since like my first year. I'm in third year / fourth year right now. And what I did, I guess, for the YouTube thing was like the like algorithm, like lead code, data structure thing. And I had like open source implementations of like all the classic data structures in TypeScript. And for the going back to the overinvesting point, I feel like once you put your not your toe in the water, like more than that, once you realize, I don't know, once you put a decent amount of effort into some sort of learning and public project, then you realize what kind of things are worth it to invest that amount of time. For example, like the lead code thing was extremely beneficial to me and like the data structure prep because it was something that I didn't really want to do, but it gave
Yeah.
me motivation to create those videos and live stream and stuff like that. And it does create on my part a bit more effort to like create those things besides just learning in private, but there's like the payoffs would be more worth it to me in that sense. But then I'm curious to hear your opinion on this as well. But like right now, I'm kind of doing the I'm reading some textbooks and doing some projects on like operating systems and like networking and concurrency. And for those topics, I feel like after it's not as worth. I don't feel it's worth it for me to like. I am basically what I'm doing is I'm reading the textbooks. I'm creating summaries of the textbooks, and then I'm like finishing the homework assignments and personal projects, so just like a typical course. But I'm not doing anything full blown out like a YouTube video. So like for me, I was like, okay, those like the degree or spectrum, there lies different projects on the learning and public scale based off how much effort you want to put into.
Yeah. Have you heard? Have you read the part about learning gears? I think I've mentioned it everywhere now. But like essentially, like you should basically match your output to the type of thing that you're learning and the kind of mode you're in. And I tried to identify like 4 different modes. And yeah, I think a lot of times. So I'll just kind of recap for just to refresh your mind and whoever's watching. The first gear is kind of exploring, like you don't know what you don't know, and you're just kind of going a mile wide and an inch deep, right? Like you're not really going for depth. You're just trying to marking out the territory, and then the settler gear is kind of like, okay, like what you don't know, and that other people know that. Like there's an established learning path, and your only task is to just run up it as fast as possible. Like you're not finding anything new. You're just kind of going up where other people go, and so that's where a lot of like learn how to learn stuff comes in, like spaced repetition, like progressive summarization. There's a lot of techniques that are very well studied. But I think then there's like other stuff where, for example, the third gear, which is connecting between different domains, like drawing the generalized truths beyond two similarly linked domains. Those are always sources of really good insights. Linking two disciplines, like for me it was React and TypeScript, but for other people it could be like testing and machine learning. Like just the combinatorial explosion of just like any two things that you can draw connections with. Like you can be probably a domain expert in compared to like just a domain expert in one thing, and that's your wedge to eventually becoming a domain expert in that major thing. And then the last gear is when you find something, and again it's kind of like a return to like what you don't know, but you also know that the entire world doesn't know it, or it's too hard, or it's too unknown, and this is too important, and you start working on it. And this is, I kind of compare this to mining. Like you found gold, and you tripped over gold, and you're like, okay, this is where I need to focus all my energy and time. And that's where you're starting to build infrastructure and community around this problem. And I think the difference between the mining gear and all the other gears is that all the other gears, you're kind of putting yourself out there, and you're hoping to sort of get people to notice you and all that. Whereas I think once you work on a meaty problem like space exploration or or electric cars, people want you to succeed because there's no fixed pie. Like people want you to, there's no competition. Like you are pushing the boundaries of human ability, and that's why you see people like Elon Musk basically mining. Like they found important problems, and the world will rally to them to join them. And I think these are all valid learnings, and these are all valid modes, and I think they entail different forms of learning in public. And I think so for example, like the Explorer gear, you would just like publish notes to yourself, which by the way, I study networking as well. And if you look at my earliest posts on dev.to, they're actually all my networking notes. Nobody read them. I read them. Actually, like people actually read them and this was back when like I had probably 2 orders of magnitude less followers. And they like contributed interesting comments. Like my CEO, because I was working at Netlify at the time, my CEO saw that I was learning this thing, and he introduced me to Martin Casado, who's the Andreessen Horowitz general partner, who like invented some of the networking principles that I was studying. And I was like, I'm not ready to talk to this guy. Anyway, but like stuff like that just like randomly happens because you create your luck when you do these kinds of things. But like I'm just saying, like yeah, should I be creating, polished YouTube videos or workshops based on me just like being an explorer? No, like I don't know shit. But I can take notes and people can comment on my notes, and that's fine. And but then you like step it up a gear when you like know a bit more, and then you step it up more. And I think every time you do that, it's a parallel. You could do all this in private. The only assertion is that you learn faster when you do it, put it on public, because you get feedback, and because your skin's in the game, right? Like you now are on the hook to know things, because you're like putting out there, at least in public, in theory, even if no one reads it. And then I think just the effort of like going through and like working with the material instead of just like passively browsing, really just makes you retain it more. Like, don't you think you sound like, so I yeah I don't have a name for this phenomenon, but like once you've like taken notes on it and written it down, and then people talk to you about it just like off the cuff like this, you just sound smarter. Like how like I sound way smarter when I talk about anything that I've written up about before, like 1, 2, 3, 4, like first, second, third, fourth. Like there's this structure that's inherent in the way that I speak that just makes me a much clearer speaker because I've written. That's it.
Are you're saying because you write, just the act of writing makes your
Yeah.
like logical thinking more coherent?
Yeah, you've had the chance to organize it, and you
Yeah.
remember it because you struggled with it, and it's,
Oh,
it's
like
just like,
the content itself.
yeah,
Yeah,
like,
no,
yeah,
100%.
I'm very interested in ways to win, even if nobody else like participates, right? Like a lot of people, when they talk about learning in public, they're like, oh, I want to give back to the community, like they're so charitable.
Mm.
And I'm like, sure. But like 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 you give money if you care that much, but like this is I think the more sustainable motivation is self-interest, and that can power you forever. And also, it's not dependent on the size of your audience. If you don't get feedback, you don't stop. You keep going, because you understand that there's absolute value instead of relative value, in terms of like, there's just value to me in going through the process, no matter what the outcome.
What's the like the absolute versus relative value kind of I guess I'm assuming some sort of like a mental model?
I haven't talked about this much. I probably should write it off something. This actually comes from Buddhism. So my mom's a Buddhist, and there's this concept of absolute versus relative happiness. So relative happiness is like very conditional on the outside world. Like, if I have a house, a car, a credit card, whatever, then I'm happy. If I have a family, then I'm happy. And if those things go away, then I'm unhappy. Those are very sort of relative to where I was, where other people are, like, comparing to my neighbors, compared to my friends. If I'm better than them, then I'm happy. It's very zero sum way of thinking, and it's very conditional. Like, shit happens, and then your whole world is wrecked. And I think Buddhism very much focuses inwards on like, how can you achieve a level of happiness, that's it's also very similar to Stoicism, right? Like, you're happy regardless of the worst things that could happen to you, and that really sort of powers the way that I think. And I think it's interesting because people are attracted to people that don't care about attracting people. It's one of those things where like, there's so many parallels in like psychology and like philosophy, and there's no one discipline that kind of encompasses this, but it's this idea of absolute versus relative. Like, do you have independent self-worth, value, happiness, contentment, whatever, and how much of that is and yeah, like once you make that mental switch, you're so I kind of applied those two terms, absolute versus relative, to learning, right? Like, does your learning in public, is it contingent upon approval from others? Like, do you publish something and then not get feedback and then stop? Well, that's a terrible process. Like, don't do that. Instead, you should have some sort of absolute fulfillment in what you do, right?
Yeah, 100%. I like, yeah, I'm a big fan of the Stoicism and the philosophical part, at least, of Buddhism. And yeah, like I resonate with it so much. It's like you need, yeah, happiness should be based off what you control, right? Because if it's not,
Things within your
then
control.
it's very hard to get that. And um Yeah, I think that's something that I can now draw parallels to with learning in public, and also just like applying for a bunch of internships these past few years and like always getting rejected. It's
What is it? So
it's
do you start when you're a freshman? Like, is it that early? Or
Yeah, so you start with your freshman, and usually for Waterloo at least, the first, one or two co-ops might would be like a smaller type company or a startup. Um, I actually had two internships in high school. I was interning for this uh, telecommunications company in Toronto called TELUS Digital. It was like a digital company within the TELUS thing, and because of that, I was able to like get interviews at companies that normally I think first years wouldn't. Um, but so like I was like there, but I wasn't there. So then I was able to like actually pass Google's interviews for the first like my first year summer, and then I was put into the team match phase. But then clearly like I just studied for the lead coding part, but I didn't have like the actual skills to be matched with the team that they wanted. Um, yeah. So then like
and
that's
then what
like a
did he
really
do? But you
like
passed.
I didn't get matched with the team. Um,
What?
so
I didn't
that's
know
like
that could happen.
yeah. I also think it was because I applied to the general software engineer intern position, which was like any all years could apply. I should have applied to the program specifically first years and second years. I don't know why I didn't do that. But then it's kind of been a chip on my shoulder because I'm like, damn, if I got that, my trajectory could have been at least maybe an order of magnitude higher than where I am right now.
Yeah.
But those thoughts are like not good, right? Because they're not in my control.
Yep.
And throughout the my university career, I'd say I'd be pretty good of like getting back up when I go down. But I feel like now this past year, kind of entering back and like going heavy on tech. Ever since honestly the COVID pandemic happened, I just was like, okay, this is time for me to just kind of grind and stuff. Um, it's been hard balancing that healthy mindset, especially with university, everyone's competing and stuff. But yeah, go back to the learning in public thing. Definitely, like the reason why I was like so motivated to continue was just because I wanted to learn, not because I found so much benefit just explaining like Feynman technique, explaining it to people. So that's why I just like posted all these YouTube videos and like no one was watching. I was posting it for like 2 months straight. I did some like object oriented stuff, some TypeScript stuff, and then the data structures.
That's awesome.
And yeah,
I
but
should look, yeah, I should look it up on YouTube, but at the same time, yeah, it doesn't matter, right? Like you
yeah,
benefited from it regardless.
yeah, exactly. But if you do search up Fibonacci heap, I am the second video that pops up. There's like two videos on
For what? Oh,
for a
Fibonacci heap?
Fibonacci. Yeah, like some pretty obscure like
Nice.
heap with theoretical O1 limits. It's pretty funny. But
It's awesome.
besides that, yeah,
It's pretty funny because like you do this long enough, and it doesn't take that long. 2 months is not that long. The David Perel typically calls this like the 4 months of quiet. Like it actually it's nothing in terms of like the scheme of things to solve like the cold start problem. Um, but like yeah, eventually you get to a point where like your resources on like if you make a resource on everything that you learn, then you kind of just use Google as like your like it works for you, and um and like you know it's like a super weird flex, but like every time like I need something, I'll just throw it into Google and it'll be like on the front page pretty regularly, and I'll just like just go there. And it's pretty awesome for interviews as well. But like okay, just to kind of tie it back to your story because I want to make this about you. Like imagine if like your process of applying to the Google internship, you were putting out there and you already had some kind of existing relationship with Googlers. They might be able to flag like, hey, you're on the wrong path. You might want to try to apply for this one. Or let's say you got rejected or didn't match with the team after you pass your interview, and let's say you tweeted that out and some Googlers saw you and they already liked your work. They might go like, hey, let me have a word with someone on my side and we take you in because I already like your work. Like there's stuff like that where like if you share any part of that in public, your luck is better than zero of like something happening. It might not, nothing might happen, but like it's better than zero. And it's just such an invaluable thing. Once you realize that this is the thing that lasts your whole career and not more than any single job, then you're like start investing in it more than your real job. Because like this you will take with you like your relationships with human beings and yeah, like potential, like my current job at AWS, like I knew my future boss for 2 years. Like at that point, there's nothing to interview, you know. So I kind of wish that on everyone. It's not feasible, or it's not, you know, it's kind of an ideal rather than a practical reality. But I think having that, you know, being able to be open with part of the process, you know, generates opportunities that might be beneficial.
Yeah.
And with the caveat that, like, make sure it's okay with whoever, you know, especially if you're talking about like sort of confidential stuff, don't do that. I've done it.
I know. Yeah, the luck, the like creating serendipity, learning in public is amazing for it. I remember reading your article, and also one thing that also really resonates with me nowadays is there's a YouTube guy on who does science stuff. I don't know, I'm botching his name, but it's like Vera Situm or something.
Yeah.
And he posted a video on success and luck. And what was like amazing, like I knew, like, of course, like there was always luck, but the way he did it was explained it was amazing. So in I don't remember the years, but there's like this NASA like training program, and I believe there was 18,000. Yeah, you've heard of it?
Is this the
So
Goddard from 2010, like the Goddard Space Training Center?
I I think so, but what happens is there's 18,000 people who start with the program, and only 11 are chosen to go forward.
Oh,
And he did a toy simulation where he ran it for 1,000 times, and basically there's just like some absolute score, and the top 11 people with the highest scores get are put through. So in this model, his simulation, he has a like hard skill score, which is, let's say, like your hard work, your personal skills, blah blah blah, which counts for 95% of the score, and then the last 5% is a luck score, which is just randomly generated because it's just luck. And what happened was the average luck score of the top 11 of the people who went through the training program in a simulation, the average luck score was 95% of that 5%, right? So it's like basically every time you run the simulation, like 9 out of those 11 people are different every single time.
mm-hmm.
So then that kind of like solidified it in terms of like a concrete like model that I can think of. It's like, wow, like every single time the simulation runs, there's probably 9 different people of the 11 every single time, just due to luck. And I was like I saw that while like kind of learning in public and stuff. And then I guess I'm starting to feel those benefits. Hopefully I can continue to do so along my career. But when I was interviewing for Tesla, one of the interviewers was like, yeah, I was like really impressed um, with your like resume and like your YouTube videos and Twitter and stuff. Because he said he was confused, like if this was like an intern interview or a new grad interview. And yeah, like I was mentioning, like, yeah, like during the call at the end of our interview, the conversation, I was like, oh yeah, he's like, so how did you get into this? And I was just like, oh yeah, swyx, like I was reading his article, and he's like, oh yeah, like I follow him on Twitter too. And I was just like, okay, hopefully I get this job in my mind now that I name drop swyx. I'm in the tech community. Yeah. But things like
Yeah.
that, right? Like on, yeah, like that. And then I also, through you, I got introduced to the like philosophies of like, yeah, David Perel and like David Santiago. I didn't pay for any of those courses because I can't afford them, but just like older blogs and articles, just how like Twitter is like the new kind of coffee shop of, you know, the 21st century, and like that's where the conversations are happening. I put an effort to create some sort of presence. I'm not doing the best job, to be honest, on Twitter, because right now I'm still working on my own stuff, but I definitely see like how much luck this is, this learning in public is like increasing for me, which is like amazing.
Awesome. Did you so first of all, like, that's super flattering. And I don't know what to say. Like, I'm just glad that it helped a little bit, but obviously you did most of the work, right? Like, I think just that push alone doesn't do much for most people, unless you're also in like a mindset and you know, you don't have anything else going on that you can actually put it to action. But yeah, I mean, I think it's one of those things where like you start to realize that, especially as a college student, um, like a resume is important, but like your resume looks pretty much the same as everyone else's. And one of the ways to stand out is to engage in, in like real world activities like this stuff. And it doesn't have to be that great to be impressive, right? Like, uh, it one of the people I quote in the book is Mecca Okereke, who's, I think he's a hiring manager at Google. And he's like, yeah, you don't need like a giant body of work. Like a lot of one of my problems with this idea that everyone should have a portfolio is that portfolios incentivize you to bias for design, which like a lot of people don't do design, and then they also bias to you towards breadth, and sometimes you just need depth, and just like the one super impressive piece, um, and that'll be enough. Like as long as you like are have created something relevant to the company, and like that's good enough, right? Like so I think he mentioned two other things. Like he was like one well done piece, one one example line of code with a story, um and then one with like all the like the like sort of best practices thing, like testing, documentation, like just to show that you covered your bases. So the way I simplify it is like, do cool shit and cover your bases. And some people don't even care that you don't cover your bases, because as long as the shit that you've done is cool enough, like you're like, okay, you're in, and, and that's pretty much it. I think I think like, and what's funny is like the scale is definitely for like, from internships all the way up to, professional careers. Like I'm doing the exact same thing that you are doing. And it definitely is more reflective of the society we live in today, right? Like resumes were how we used to hire maybe like 100 years ago, but I think we live in a more highly contextual environment. And I also kind of compare this to proof of work. Okay, so if you view resumes as like a information medium, right? So you're serializing your qualities down to a piece of paper, and then someone has to deserialize that. It's an extremely lossy algorithm on both sides, and people can't really tell that much. Like sometimes you might have a overinflated resume, or sometimes a really good person might have a shitty resume because they just don't know how to make a good resume. What's better is putting out some work in public where people, the moment they look you up, can instantly verify. So it's more like a cryptographic proof of work, right? That this is a person that does quality, and they may not have ever heard of you up to that day. Like I had people at my Amazon interview sit down, Google me in front of me, and then they were like, okay, yeah, good enough. Like like and you cannot fake that. You cannot sprint like the night before, make a super sweet, like you can sprint and make the night before and make a super sweet resume and hope that it works, but you cannot fake like months and years of just consistent, diligent working in public. And I think people are expecting that authenticity and realizing that this is harder to fake. It's just like a stronger signal than any of the other stuff that we do.
100%. And yeah, I like that metaphor, like the serialization and the velocity algorithm. It's just like they probably,
It's terrible.
if you, yeah. And the thing is if you're like nowadays, to be honest, what a lot of people are doing, and what my experience is like just applying to like online portals is really just not going to be successful majority of the time. But if you're applying through a referral, most of the times those recruiters will actually take a look at your links. Because I honestly, I was reading, I forget his name, the person that I think you also talking to recently with the resume book.
Oh, Gergely.
Yeah.
There are a couple of people with
Um,
resume books. The most recent one is shit. It's a Hungarian name, so I don't know how to pronounce it, but it's like Gergely Orosz. Yeah, the
the
Uber
Inside Out resume book, right? The resume, like,
Tech Inside Out. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
yeah. Um, but like I have a theory, like I just think that recruiters will spend more time on like resumes that they get referred, and they will spend time looking at those links and portfolios and stuff like that. So yeah, like it's just like another, like, as you said, like cryptographic signature that shows that like, okay, this person, I have more to see. I don't just have this one page, serialized thing. I have this
Yeah.
this entire footprint, or yeah.
I'm a little bit mixed, right? Because like, not everybody can do this. It does take a lot of extra like out of hours effort. And some people are just they need their privacy for reasons. But like it also works. And also like if everybody starts doing it, then it's gonna be extremely noisy and extremely crowded. So it's like I was thinking like it's like a land grab, but also at the same time, not enough people do it. So I don't know what to believe. It's just it's just I think it
I don't.
works.
It definitely works, but I don't think there'll ever be a time. Well, I think this is something that won't change. I don't think there'll ever be a time where everyone won't do it, because I feel like the 80/20 rule will remain the same
Yeah,
in terms of creators and lurkers. And I feel like that's something so inherent to human nature that it's not a cultural shift that we can put everyone upon. Um,
yeah,
yeah.
totally. Was there a question as to like relevance? So I think Tesla, I don't think is like a super public company, and typically, my world is more sort of web dev focused. It sounds like you are too, even though you can be more generalist with your CS degree than I was, because I only focus on web dev. Was there a question of like, suitability of domain, or like, like, uh, okay, cultural fit in terms of privacy, and then or secrecy, because Tesla is like kind of secretive, and then suitability in terms of domain. Was there a question in your interview process with that?
Um, so sorry, I'm like, the first question was the
Like
right, the
like
company
is it a fit?
specific, and then
Yeah,
second
yeah.
one, yeah. For me personally, or are you asking if the company was asking these questions?
Yeah, like since you're sort of bought into this, like
Hmm.
like there's some companies that kind of brand themselves on being working in public. Therefore, the person who like espouses those values would see a closer affinity to that culturally, right? Whereas like if you like apply to a more secretive company like Apple or Tesla, that might be that might be a concern. It sounds like it wasn't for your interviewer, but I just wanted to double check that.
Yeah, so yeah, I believe, yeah, Tesla and kind of, I guess, SpaceX and Elon's other companies are quite secretive, I guess. For me, I'm not I'm not there yet in terms of what's the word, analyzing the culture fit regarding like if I want to work there full time after graduation, because I think the internship will, I think I'll know the answer to that after the 4 month internship. Um, to be honest, I'm just really excited. I'm a fanboy of Elon. Reading his biography or autobiography, I get confused between the two. But
Mm-hmm.
after reading that, and yeah, I want to see like what's happening on the inside.
Yeah.
There's huge plans, going on in Elon's brain, and I know like Tesla is not just a car company. It's like uh, I think there's like links between all of his companies. I just want to see, like, I just love to get more influence, like learn more, because I personally am very passionate about kind of energy, sustainable energy and stuff like that. I went vegetarian a few years ago, mainly due to health and then part ethical. But then when I explored the more holistic reason and saw there's an ethical part and there's an environmental part, I was like, wow, like this is actually going vegetarian is the number one uh, most what's the word, the best thing you can do to reduce your climate footprint. But I actually read that most of the the carbon emissions are not from consumers, but from producers and companies. So people want to make you feel bad or something. But anyways, that's kind of getting off a tangent. So yeah, I think I'll figure I think I'll figure that out after the 4 months. In
Sure.
regards to domain, the team it's a mobile team. So it's front end development, I believe React Native,
Oh,
and um, yeah, to me, that's my comfort zone, and I am looking to branch out into more of the, I would say like probably infrastructure platform teams, um,
why?
but because I want to be T-shaped with my internships,
Okay.
and then choose to. I want to go breadth first, and then choose a specific path to strike. I'm like pretty fortunate to have started my journey with programming a little bit earlier than others. So I'm comfortable with, I guess, front end and full stack product engineering, and I'd be more interested in learning how to scale systems and that. So then I can kind of see like, okay, is that something I'm interested in or not? So, but still, like, yeah, going back to Tesla, I'm still like, my main interest is really kind of learning more about Tesla and Elon, and yeah.
Hi, good enough, man. That's a good enough reason. Especially like I love internships, man. I wish that the industry just had a lot more. Like I want to create internships on my team. Like I'd pay an intern out of my own pocket. I don't know the legalities of it. Just like we all need more work experience for everyone entering the industry so that they can figure out what the heck they want. Before committing to like a whole career in that path. Like there's this concept of like path dependency, right? Kind of like the first job that you get out of college kind of typecasts you for the next job and the next job. It's not to say that you can't switch into like a different track. It's just going to be harder because you're going to be viewed as like, oh, this is the mobile person, or like this is the infrastructure person. And like it's just natural to specialize rather than to swap. So it's like it behooves you to like do a bunch of internships, exactly like Waterloo does. It's just like this is not normal for other colleges, but do a bunch of internships in different domains, and then like figure out like, okay, like I like this problem more, so I'm just gonna pick that. That makes so much more sense.
It would be very interesting if the internship model can be applied, maybe it already is, but applied to the bootcamp thing. So boot camps have relationships with companies, and because honestly, if that happens, then I could see like a huge not use case, like a stronger argument nowadays for going the bootcamp route.
Yeah. So there are some. I think when I was in a boot camp, Microsoft had a program. It was essentially
Okay.
for underrepresented minorities. So not available to me, but for like a rotational thing, and you'd spend like a year kind of going around. It's the kind of thing where only big co's have the money to spend on something that doesn't matter to them, right? And it sounds nice enough. So like I think it happens, and I think it probably already exists. It just doesn't exist it'll never exist at scale because most companies don't have that bandwidth. So it's just how it is.
True. I have a question for you as well.
Yeah.
I'm sure you have experience with Netlify and AWS.
Mm.
What do you think is the a few tips you would give to interns? What should be on how to succeed?
Whoa. On
And
interns
what
specifically?
version? Yeah, intern or new grad, let's say.
I don't know. Like there's almost like no success metric, because most interns are essentially, like you should not run your business predicated on the success of an intern or not. So like by definition, you're like non-essential, and you're just kind of there to learn. But I think just like be helpful. Like I imagine a success for an intern is like to be invited back full time, right? Like that's one measure of success. It's not your only measure because obviously maybe you don't want to work there full time. But I'm just like, and that's one way to do it. But then also maybe they just had a good time working with you. You may not work with them right away, but like 5 years down the line, they still remember you because you had that good interaction. That's also, to me, that's success. Okay, so that would mean like having sort of positive energy, like asking good questions. They're gonna assign tasks that you can take on, but like if you think like you're over your head, like just just say so, and like no one's this is kind of I have a chapter in my book called lampshading, where like two areas where you're allowed to not know anything are when you're very junior and when you're very senior, and like it's the middle part where you're supposed to know everything. So like just take advantage of that, that safe harbor, I kind of call it. It's like a legal term, right? Like you're allowed to ask anything and just like go ahead. One way to make sure, so that you can take that too far, right? Like if you're just like going around always like why, it's just super annoying. One way to give value back is to write it down. right? And to make an onboarding handbook for the other interns, for other batches, for other new grads, and that scales them, right? So if you reflect that energy and then kind of learn what they do in public, like, you know, it doesn't have to be public, but just like public within the company, then like they know that every time, like they know that spending time with you is worth it, because you're going to reflect that energy back to them and amplify them, and give that perspective that they don't have, which is like you have a beginner's mind, yada yada, like which actually means that you're better equipped to reason from first principle than they are, because they just have, you know, they're just kind of stuck in this thing for a while. So all these, like, you know, concretely, asking good questions, you know, finishing what you're assigned, and then like building like a knowledge base or something, you know, or that actually, you know, is useful to other, like to them in their daily work, or other interns or other new employees. And I find that these are just like continually underinvested areas where you can always make a contribution. People always remember you very well for it. Like you can't screw it up, basically, if you just do it. Like adding tests as well. Like people, you know, people don't write enough tests just as a fact of life. So if you like volunteer to like go through tests, like you're doing the opposite of break. You can't break anything because you're only writing tests, and you're doing the opposite of breaking anything. You're like kind of you know, making it more resilient, hopefully. There are ways to write really bad tests, but yeah, you know, hopefully that's some good advice. I think, you know, my surprise and my reaction is basically, I don't imagine that any of this is specific for interns. Like I would recommend it for myself joining a new company.
Yeah, I've done that at previous companies where like basically you might not have more absolute knowledge than your seniors, but you have more knowledge on what it feels like to be a beginner. So then that's still valuable, right? Because there'll always be new juniors or new grads or new anyone into the funnel. So like if you can create that, like, you know, onboarding document or something that they don't have access to in their current level, then that's still very beneficial.
Yeah, especially the people who know best the value of improving onboarding is managers, because they deal with this a lot of hiring, a lot of like, what's the ramp up time? Okay, that means that I need to plan this far back, and it's such an overhead, and anything you do to improve that would be very well received. Just the fact that you're asking this question, like, you know, I think that a lot of people might be pretty entitled in their internships. Like they expect the company to have it all figured out for them, and chances are they're not going to. And then so you kind of like get out what you put in terms of that, and people don't put in that much because they're just like kind of tourists. But if you kind of go there with the intention of like making real relationships with the people they work with, and leaving some tangible value that stays there even after you leave, I don't see how they like don't see that, you know, and maybe they invite you back, but maybe they just remember you forever, and that's the start of your network in the industry, right? And yeah, these there's so much else I can say. I feel like I've said too much already.
Oh no, I'm taking it all in, please.
So you know, just to kind of not go too long, but like I'm curious, like what do you intend to do? Like, you know, fast forward to you've graduated, you're working at wherever. Oh, one thing I wanted to bring up, by the way, the way I think the place I got Learn in Public from is from Kelsey Hightower. I think I've mentioned it in before, but like I just want to make it clear, like it actually comes from, even though I'm like front end web dev, like this idea came from an infrastructure guy, and I'm sure he got it from somewhere else. You know, it's like a thing that it's not my idea. It's not anyone's. It's just take it, you know, if it helps you, and yeah, feel free to make it your own and put your own spin on it. Like I've definitely put like way too much words online about what I think it is, but I think other people have different opinions, and they're valid. You know, I might disagree with them, but they're valid. And so yeah. Okay. So my question would be like, kind of, how do you see your Learn in Public evolving? How do you think that I could help?
These questions,
Mm-hmm.
never prepared for them. When I go into my previous internship one-on-ones, my CTO would always ask me, "Oh, how can I help you? Uh, be
Yeah.
a better, personal engineer." I'm just like, I don't know. But let me think. So, what I intend to do with my learning in public journey. So right now, I'm definitely on um, the first phase has already been
Explorer.
complete in the sense of exploring in terms of the domain of computer science. Um, my mental model in terms of going all the way below the stack from your front end like high level React stuff down to like the networking stack, and then communicating with the operating system, and then like the actual computer architecture, compiling it down to binary, stopping at the transistor level, all the order of the black boxes, and like the entry points, like, oh, I know this does that, but I don't know what's in this black box. That's been clear to me. So now I'm just in the second phase, which is just learning everything that everyone already knows. The ramp, I guess, that you were talking about.
Yeah.
I forget what you call it, but yeah. So that's
Settling.
what I'm currently doing. Settling, yeah. That's
Like
what I'm currently doing right
there's
now.
already a village, and you're just like kind of joining them. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a village and I'm joining them. I'd be interested to, after I get more comfortable with the topics I'm learning about, and um, wait, so sorry, refresh my memory again. What was the third thing? It was connection, right?
Connecting. So
Connecting to
connecting different
other.
domains, and also teaching what you know to people who kind of like sending it backwards, right? Like extending help
Yeah,
to people that you used to be.
I'd be interested in not connecting it to another domain within tech, but another domain or lifestyle, which is content creation.
Yeah.
I'd be interested in like, so maybe that's not even exactly what that mode's talking about, but like I'd be interested in displaying maybe like or sharing learning in public, and all my knowledge with other people in the forms of maybe like vlogs or some other things, because those mediums I feel like nowadays connect to people really well. So, and I'm a pretty creative person as well. So I'd be interested in that. In regards to, yeah, I don't know, because you're asking me, like, I'm looking at Mount Everest right now because I'm still so young. I'm just like, I don't know, like what's up there. I'll probably figure it out as long as I go.
Yeah, it's fine.
Um,
It's fine to not know. I normalize, get comfortable with saying I don't know. It's fine.
yeah, 100%.
And you and I
Uh,
are already connected, so you can always ask later.
yeah, thank you. In terms of how you can help me, I think you've already done so much, man. Like all those articles of not just learning in public, but also the advertising yourself or marketing yourself
Oh yeah,
blog, and a few others. Also, I really enjoyed your was it the third revolution or third like wave of JavaScript?
yeah,
The third phase, that was like really dope. So I don't have a concrete answer for you right now, but
that's fine.
yeah,
Yeah,
as
that's
long
cool.
as I can keep talking to you and reading your blogs, like this is amazing.
Dude, that's super flattering. But also, you should do it too. And I think, yeah, I think like we all just need to like write more. It's kind of like the answer, because like it scales yourself, so well that like I had no idea when you read it. Like I didn't have to have that conversation with you. You and I start from don't start from zero, because we already have this shared understanding, because you already read
Mm.
so much of that stuff, and I imagine having that with everyone. And that's a wonderful feeling that I wish on everybody. And I think you get there by like writing about the most interesting thing in front of you at any point, and really applying yourself, right? Like it, not like just writing more like kind of doesn't cut it. That's why I'm like a little bit uncomfortable to recommend it. But like you have to write more with the intent of like pushing yourself every single time, because if you're just kind of going through the motions, then it's gonna suck. And like let's not do that. But like but I think you're a smart guy, like, and you got a lot of interests, and you have sort of creative energy, like just see where that takes you. And yeah, I mean, one of those things where like it's one of those things where okay, my one tip for you, and then we'll end this like recorded part, is I really think that a lot of creators kind of lose themselves in the grind, which is I'll commit to videos Monday, Thursday, and then they just put out whatever. And because of the grind, they start doing things like, do you know what that machine learning guy who like got caught as a fraud? Yeah, so they start like cutting corners. They start like trying to go for clickbait. They start going, and it's just like it just sends you down a very dark path where you feel like a slave to your own commitment of your own making, which sucks. and and I think it's kind of like this curve. Okay, I don't know how to draw this in a video, but like you're like you sprint and then you output and then you kind of go down. You sprint, output, and go down. And it doesn't build, right? It doesn't compound. And that's I think that's the problem. Like whenever we create, it takes so much of a lift. And then once we're done creating, we're like, I got to do this again and again and again and again and again for years. And I think, a lot of people like pivot to news for that source of energy, or like they pivot to whatever. Like there's a lot of sort of similar race to the bottom tactics of that. And I think the way that you avoid that is you try to build on top of existing work, to build a body of work that's kind of self-referential, that like explores different part of the same theme, that continually like, so you're not going like this and then go back down. You kind of go up and up and up and up, and it kind of compounds into this giant body of work. And so that's what I don't know if I'm like getting across that idea very well, but it's this idea that like, so blog posts are nice, vlogs are nice, but series of like a topic series, like a video series, like things where like there's a one thing kind of reinforces other things. Those are very interesting to me because you can kind of iterate on that, and like 2 years of that actually builds up to something rather than just kind of two years of like flat directionless output. I don't know if that makes so. I think one way of doing it is what I call open source knowledge, which is where you have an open source repo and you just kind of keep adding to it over time, and everyone who comes across it not only benefits from that day, week, month's work, but also all the prior day, week, months, because it's been built up over time. And I feel like that's a qualitatively different thing that you create compared to a one-off blog post, a one-off video, right? And so I think that's fine. The one-offs are fine, but just like always be on the lookout for the thing that you can build into like this giant behemoth, because that is going to be what you're known for. And that is amazing. Like that just pays dividends so much because there's so few of it out there.
Yeah, no, I was initially confused, but I know what you're saying now. It's kind of like, I guess focusing on one, try if you can see what you're interested in, like, I guess focusing on, because then I guess would it be correct to say it's more of like, you benefit more from depth than breadth?
Probably, yeah. And it's one of those things where like everyone like spoiler, like you're not special wanting to be T-shaped. Everybody wants to be T-shaped. You know what I mean? Like, and I think that's because and this is covered in the book on the specialist versus generalist. Like, everyone specializes by choice, but then everyone generalizes by need. Like show me a person who codes but doesn't know how to go to the bathroom or something. Like we all have like some general basic needs anyway. Everyone's T-shaped. I don't know. It's like this weird thing that the harder thing is to run up the learning curve and be an expert in something. And so I think I prefer that. I prefer that depth to doing hello worlds in 50 different languages.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah.
It's by the way. So one of the well-known writers in tech is Ben Thompson of Stratechery. And he's pretty fun. He's pretty weird because like he writes about Facebook, Microsoft, Apple, Google for every week for like 5 years. And it's always like, how does he not run out of like ideas? How does he keep it interesting that people still keep paying him to read his stuff? And I think I think my answer to that, like why is a Ben Thompson so different a type of writer from like the typical type of writer that you might see on Medium or Dev2? And I think the difference there is that those are one-offs, and he's building a body of knowledge that's self-referential, that keeps getting better over time, and he's refining it, and people like seeing the process because he knows it's not perfect. And yeah, we should do that. Like do things that compound. It seems so simple, right? The conclusion is do things that compound, but like the way you get there is observing that people do a lot of things that don't compound, and they think that that's the same thing. It's not.
Yeah. And like as a reader, like I would know that, yeah, I know it makes sense because it's like he knows what he's talking about. So I want to read more of that. Whereas like the Dev2 articles, like if someone's posting like one-offs, I would rather just, if I want to learn about some topic X, I'd rather go to the person that's been posting about topic X for 5 years than just someone who's, been doing it with one-offs.
Yeah. I mean, so I'll be totally honest. I don't feel like I'm there yet. I'm kind of there for learning public, and that's what people know me for. But I don't have like a technical thing or like a broader mission beyond that, and I'm still looking for it myself. But that doesn't stop me from like just writing more and just exploring it. Like it may take me 10 years to do it, but at least I'm trying, and I think a lot of people don't try.
Yeah, 100%. I know what you mean now. So it's kind of like the person who also from he posted the GraphQL book. He's from GitHub, I believe.
Andre Giraud. Yeah. The only thing you ever see from him is production GraphQL.
Yeah. Or like when I think of GraphQL, I think of him. You know what I mean?
Really? Oh, okay. I'm sure you'd like to hear that. Yeah.
Actually, I guess so. Okay, my statement has no weight at all because I'm not really
sure. Yeah.
I'm not like heavy into the GraphQL scene, but also yeah, for sure when I think of learning in public, I definitely think of you as well.
Thank you.
Do you have any potential starting paths that you are interested in doing that in terms of, you said that you don't have that for anything in tech. Is something like is now like this AWS Amplify kind of serverless thing something that you're interested in carving that out for?
Right, that would be like a really good starting point for doing that. But I don't think so. AWS to me is, even I work there. It's a means to an end, and I don't feel like I want to dedicate my life to like being the AWS guy. That doesn't like excite me. Like it's great. It's something that I want to learn, so I might as well be paid to learn it. But like, yeah, I want to things that interest me. Right now, I have it down to developer tools and developer communities, right? So building tools with like good developer experience, and I have a bunch of posts that I'm very excited about talking about that, and is this intersection, right, of like I'm interested in it, and other people also find it valuable. It's got to be this intersection. And so the other thing is developer communities, like how like the non-technical parts of code actually form the way that people make decisions and be more productive with code itself. And I've helped to run the React Reddit. I started this Felt community together with help from others, and I'm interested in exploring more and maybe becoming that guy, the developer communities guy, which like I could very conceivably own, and I think that's a very valuable spot to be in. The only thing holding me back is like what about the other things that I'm giving up on? Like to like plant your flag, you have to close doors, right? And it's that, I gave that advice in the Marketing Yourself blog post, but it's so hard to do. You just got to do it though. Like there's nothing like preventing you from changing if it doesn't work out. It's just yeah, it's hard. It's hard to actually live it. But like I do have those marked out. So there's, yeah, I think the environment is something I'm evaluating. I historically I've been kind of a little bit defeatist about the climate. But yeah, I don't know. It's one of those things where like a friend of one of my best friends actually recently got in touch with me, and he was like, yeah, I really want to start something in this area. And I'm like, I don't have a good reason to say no. Like, this is a important problem. And the only thing holds me back is like, I don't know shit about it. And I've heard a lot of people struggle. Like they start with something too big, a problem that's way too big, and they can't solve it, and then they fail. And yeah, that's a waste of life. You just you tried, good for you, but it's, maybe your time was better spent elsewhere. So I do think about that a lot. So and then the last thing, in case that wasn't enough, a lot of social media, a lot of like apps are evaluated based on engagement, like stealing your attention, stealing your time. And so I'm very interested in this idea of useless software that kind of is invisible, that just like kind of doesn't get evaluated on whether you use it more. It gets evaluated on whether you use it less. So use less software, it's kind of like a nice pun. So I don't. So one example is I don't have this example in my head, but it's this like is this idea of like invisible software that kind of like just runs in the background, and just it's like your life is just better because you have it running for you. If I had more time, I would like go look it up in my notes, but it's probably like buried somewhere. I have like 3 different note taking systems because I keep switching. So I don't want to put it. I don't want to like pause this call to go look for it. But there's a thesis of invisible software that I'm also kind of working on. So multiple irons.
That sounds really interesting. I will I love seeing like your theories and DC. I don't know the plural of that, whatever.
theses,
because I see that you have like you have so much knowledge outside outside of tech as well, and like I feel like the way you explain things and like the mental models and analogies and metaphors are very like I think other people have also kind of when they mention you, like you have this very I don't know how to say, like it just, a lot of the stuff you write makes sense, or like it's very explainable, but I feel like it's hard to create those things to people that are not putting in. I don't know. I'll just stop rambling on, but
it's fine.
I'm very excited to read it.
Embrace the struggle. Like, I think this is part of being more articulate, and being articulate has value, right? Like being able to express what you think, and it's fine to struggle. I do it too, right? But like the only way you get better is you keep struggling and then keep trying different words, and like maybe you don't like them the first time, just try them again the second time, so but I appreciate that. Thank you. So I think that's one thing I've definitely decided, like don't write to appeal to everyone, but then also try to bring in the unique things that I bring in. I even started bringing in my Chinese language skills, and people, what's that skill? I suck at Chinese thing, but like any Chinese is better than no Chinese to a lot of people, right? So and people, I think, appreciate that. It's something they don't get elsewhere. So
I mean, it's probably, some Chinese is better than no Chinese. I'm Canadian born, and I don't know any Chinese because my mom my mom was born here. So
second generation. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, or whatever you call it. So I'm like a banana, like yellow on the outside, white on the inside. But yeah, and also kind of.
But like you have like everyone has like some kind of special things that's make them special, right? Like some weird hobby or passion that you can bring into your work and your creative inspirations, and I think that's fine. That's more than fine. That's what you should do.
Yeah, for me, I think it was what makes me like these past few years, I've been really looking back at my childhood and trying to tie connections and how it's affected the way I live and my philosophy. And I think video games, for better or for worse, has been my superpower and super weakness at the same time. It's like my ability to just, I can't tell you how like Freudian I've gone with these past few years after like realizing what I did with my childhood. I would play like League of Legends, Minecraft, CSGO. I had a YouTube channel for that. And I would play like 8 hours a day, and I would be super competitive. I wouldn't be satisfied with like the base ranking. I would have to grind, I would have to be on the top global leaderboards. it's not even that impressive, but for like League of Legends, I think I was able to get into like the top 10% in the world. But I know like friends that are easily gone to like top like 0.1%, 1 percentile. But it's like, and then I basically just saw myself. I realize now that I've shifted all that energy into grinding and like chasing for the next best like uh thing to just to life. Like I'm just like thinking life is like a video game.
Yeah,
And for me,
it
it's like
is.
it's still a thing that I'm definitely going to struggle and learn to learn more about myself in the 20s. But it's like I kind of realized the reason why I'm like trying so hard and chasing is not because of money or anything. It's um, I guess it's prestige, but it's not even prestige in the sense that like I don't want to tell anyone else because I'd just be happy with just being the best video game person and just like I'd just be happy. Um, so yeah, it's just that was a tangent. But going back to the thing
It's
that you said about
like
the
EA would call it a sense of pride and accomplishment or something. You know?
like I'm definitely gonna write like an article of like the unintended consequences of video games because I feel like I was one of like the first like generations that had serious like where video games were like developed or not like I wasn't the first because like, there was probably like some in the 2000s. I probably because I was born in 99, but um there's like you know what I mean. There's like unintended consequences of people of kids playing video games for like 10 hours a day, dopamine rush every single time. That next fix.
Yeah.
Um,
Make it personal, right? Like you know, unintended consequences of video gaming from a former, video game addict, if you want to identify yourself as that, or from like a gen, I don't know what you are, like Z, Y, X, whatever.
Zed, I think.
But like people are interested in that. People who are not even from your generation or they're interested in that kind of perspective because it helps them understand like you are a big demographic, man. and people really want to understand that and also understand it for their kids, just I think there are real stories there to be learned, but also like don't think about it as just only negatives, because there are
Mm.
definitely a lot of positive elements that are reinforced out of video games. But then also you can cover like the negative angle, you can cover the positive angle, you can cover like video game design. How did they get you to be so engrossed in like being top 10 in the world, and like that, flinking bits on the screen with being better than people that you don't know, that somehow gave meaning to life. And how do we create that for things that actually matter, like like saving, like retirement, health, whatever. But like game design is another huge topic that people are very interested in. And the moment you say like I was like a elite gamer, back in the day, and like these are all the things, the mechanisms that worked, and here's some ideas that we can pull out of that, people eat that up.
Yeah, that'd be super interesting. Although what's the word that you use for your view on climate change? You were like
I don't know. I use many words.
doubtful, or
Okay.
you're doubtful on climate. I'm doubtful. I just see that for in terms of like gamification for long term applications like saving and investing, because it's like I feel like for gamification it's easy when you have instant rewards, but it's even though like you know what I mean. I feel like you can't transform something that humans can't connect to like on a day-to-day basis, like compound growth, into something as intense of a feeling as
Instant gratification,
instant
like
gratification. Yeah.
I think you could, if you make it up, make it a
Mm,
game.
yeah.
I think there's something there. Robinhood is gamifying stock investing for a lot of people, and it's the worst for like sensible investing, but it's a hella fun video game for sure because it's real money.
100%. Yeah. And I'm very interesting to see like now that I kind of am looking things of like these past few years of university more holistically with like both psychology and tech and stuff. It's like I see every generation have their own problem, right? Like Gen
Oh yeah,
Z's have this problem they have to deal with, baby boomers have to deal with this one, or Gen Y, whatever. And I'm very curious to see kids nowadays that are born into the realm of TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube,
mm.
how the unintended consequences of those. Because for me, I feel like my year, because like honestly, yeah, for my year, we are just able to kind of skip that. So we're able to disconnect from, not be totally engrossed with social media. Like, okay, this is kind of unhealthy. I'm gonna delete Instagram for like, a few weeks or whatever. There's like, that's quite common around age group. But I'm interested to see like kids who are literally like iPad when they just, they're babies. Like I'm really interested to see that in a couple of decades or whatever, like what they're
Yeah.
gonna be up to.
Yeah. I kind of have fundamental faith in humanity to be able to adjust like that. Like we probably swing too much in one direction and then we swing back. It's like very, very popular consensus now that, social media overuse is too bad and it is bad for you. And that means that everyone of your generation and my generation are going to raise our kids with that very, very deep warning just drilled in every single day because we know. And therefore it won't be that big of a problem. It's like kind of like a self-defeating type of thing. So I've hope. We could still screw it up, but like this is not as bad as everyone has nuclear weapons and we could eliminate the planet with like a wrong button push like that. This is not that. This is manageable. Cool.
Yeah,
All right.
100%.
I'm gonna cut the recording there. And hopefully, this is helpful for others who might want to learn more. But I think your story is probably inspirational for college students, which like I can't really reach. But there are a lot of people who read my book, my blog, who are college students, and they always ask these questions. And I think your story is pretty inspirational for them. So thanks for sharing it, man.
Yeah. I just want to say one last thing. If anyone's watching this, just like keep trying. Like if you don't get the initial, I don't know, interview, or you're not passing the final rounds, like just keep trying. Don't give up. Honestly, when I was listening to Clement on YouTube with the algo expert thing,
by the way, we're
his videos were really good. Oh, nice. Oh yeah, full stack, right?
I interviewed him for my podcast when I was going through my boot camp.
Oh, nice.
Like he was just getting started with Algo Expert. It wasn't like quite a thing yet, but it was clearly very high quality, and he had a good story with the Google thing. So it was always going to work, but I didn't know it'd be this big. And he clearly invests a lot in YouTube, and it shows, right? So
yeah, his video, like this past year, I was really kind of struggling. I was like feeling down because I also had another offer for a FANG company for this fall semester, but it got like revoked due to COVID and stuff. And I was like listening to Clement at the time, and he's like, if you're listening to this, like if I can, just like don't give up at all, because like he didn't get into Wharton business school at UPenn, and he could have gone to another company besides Google. But yeah, if anyone's watching this, just like honestly keep trying and just don't give up, because at the end of the day, like as long as you work hard, like your outcomes will normalize to your input eventually. So
that's a great phrase, man. That's a great phrase. Yeah. People like you stand out by just doing it more than others, and it's like it's pretty funny because like I really want to run a marathon so that I'm qualified to say it's a marathon, not a sprint, because I haven't run a marathon. I've run 2 half marathons. I haven't run a full marathon, but I want to do it. But it really is a marathon.
That's amazing. I started running during the pandemic, and I can't get myself to run more than like an hour,
really
which
boring.
for me is like a 10K. It's just boring because I got all the benefit, my brain's totally clear of all the, tech stuff I'm thinking of. And it's just like, okay, at this point, it's just like, now, am I really a serious runner? Like to do the extra like 10K for the half marathon? I'm just like, no, I keep giving up. It's like, I keep restarting the half marathon plan. But it's just,
I tell you what works for me, having a really way older guy be faster than me. And like, I gotta be better than this guy. I'll pick a peer who like doesn't know that I'm competing with him, and I'll just like run with him for the whole thing. And I might fall behind, but like you try to like aim someone that you want to be better than, because I think as a solo race it kind of is a little bit boring. Given everything I just said about absolute versus relative, like we are humans and we like to compare. So like if you have a little like peer group, it can definitely help. So you know, I'm keen on like, you know, building a mastermind, building like a small community of people who do this. But we all find each other. I think by definition we are public, right? So it's easy it's easy to see it's easy to see people
Yeah.
trying game recognized game, that kind of thing. You know, I think it all works out. I think and I definitely agree with the don't give up thing. So all right, cool. I'm gonna cut the recording and